now listening to the Arsenal Therapy Podcast.
Hello and welcome back to the 15-minute show. It's not the headlines that they wanted. Arsenal are off to a winning start. We've got 3 points at Old Trafford with a scrappy 1-0 win. If you had given me a 1-0 win under any circumstances at Old Trafford going into this game, I would absolutely have taken it. We had the hardest game of the weekend. It was set up for us to fail. It was set up for Mikel Arteta to be in the headlines saying, is he good enough? Can he deliver Arsenal a title? Sesko versus Gyökeres, you name it, the headlines would have been written. But Arsenal have come away with a scrappy 1-0 win thanks to Riccardo Calafiori. And I want to really talk about his performance today because I thought he was absolutely superb. On the whole, Arsenal were slightly off the pace from David Raya right through. Raya, a big instance with him was him putting the ball out of play straight from a goal kick in the second half. In the first half, chopping back onto his left foot and almost giving away a penalty. But he made some big saves to keep us in the game. Along with him, I thought Saliba and Gabriel just looked a bit iffy today. Saliba not quite given the obvious pass when necessary, and Gabriel just looked a bit short. But that's to be expected because he only has played a maximum of 60 minutes in a game this season. He's missed a lot of football. This is his first 90, so that was to be expected. He was up against two tricky customers in Cunha and Mbeumo, and then he then had to deal with Benjamin Sesko. So it wasn't an easy game to be coming back to for your first 90. And at Old Trafford, we have a history of playing the badge at Old Trafford and not playing the team in front of us. And today I felt that we once again did this. But this was a marker that we had to get past. We had to get a result there. We couldn't come away with a draw or even a loss at Old Trafford. It had to be 3 points. And if we didn't get those, as I said, those headlines would have been vicious all week. We would have had a week before we played Leeds with every headline writer really hammering it home. But on the right, Ben White really struggled today. Cunha was making diagonal runs. Dorgu was giving United big threat and getting the ball in early from the wing-back position. And Ben White just couldn't really deal with him. He looked very off the pace. In midfield, I thought this was one of the worst Declan Rice performances that we've had for a while. He made some good tackles and came into the game at points, but overall, this wasn't a Declan Rice game. And whilst I thought he looked back against Athletic Club, I don't quite think that Declan Rice is maybe there yet. I still feel that he's slightly off. Zubimendi was a player that struggled for the first half an hour in certain circumstances. There was that big run where Cunha just went right through the middle. Rice, Zubimendi and Gabriel failed to deal with him and he got a shot away. But after that, I felt he started really growing into the game. In the first half, he played the most line-breaking passes on the pitch. He played 6 of them, and I thought on the ball, he was looking good. But one of the things I felt with Arsenal today, sometimes you just need to play the obvious pass. Sometimes the obvious solution is the right solution. And at times it felt like we were overcomplicating things. We're trying to move the ball forward very quickly, which is great and something that I like to see. But there are times when a game state says to you, put your foot on the ball, calm things down. And at times, Calafiori was the one to do that. So was Zubimendi. And Calafiori was a player, because he can play off both feet, he was able to get up and down the pitch. He was giving us width on one side. He was coming in and he was really creating problems. But I'm going to start off with his goal because why wouldn't I? So on the preview show, Adrian Clark and I looked at United's weaknesses from set pieces. So the minute we got a corner today, I thought this is a threat. And Bayandere is an absolute donkey when it comes to dealing with these. So Onana, they don't have a good keeper at Old Trafford at all. Ball came in, you can see it from this position. Saliba's actually being sandwiched. This was why I couldn't really understand the outcry of the United players. Yes, Saliba kind of goes in on Mason Mount, but it's Mount more pushing Saliba into the keeper than Saliba pushing himself that way. So this is just weak goalkeeping. And we saw it in the second half when Raya was pushed right back and he made a big palm away and pushed the ball out. And this was where Raya on the day was the better keeper. He was really good at saving things with his hands, not quite as good with his feet and just a bit shakier than usual. But you see it in this position, and it's as clear as day that the keeper is just unsettled, unprepared, and just isn't authoritative. If you have a keeper like this, you're going to target them. And Declan Rice with a big in-swinging ball, loads of pace, loads of zip on this, it just set it up for Calafiori. And you look at him popping in at the back post. This is a strange one because I think there's a chance that ball could have gone straight in. That was how much pace was on it, how much power was on it, and how badly the goalkeeper dealt with it. But it was set up for a player to come in and just pop that ball home. And it was Calafiori did it. Absolutely brilliant. Right at a crucial point, because United were really coming at us, and we had 2 or 3 good minutes of football before this, and finally came into the game. game went 1-0, and for the next 10, 15, 20 minutes, United were really unsettled and the game was very disjointed. But one of the things that I didn't like today was I felt that we let United bring us down to their level. And that's something that you don't want a team that aren't as good as you do. At times, when we are unable to control the game, we can let a lesser side really make the game scrappy. And that's what United did. Simon Hooper gave us absolutely nothing today. Any contact we made on a United player, whistle gone, stop and play. And it became really disjointed. So United were buying every free kick. And then when it went the other way, he was letting play go on. I'm completely fine with a referee letting some of those fouls go, because some of them I don't think are fouls, but that has to apply to both teams, because I want to see a physical game. I want to see energy and I want to see the game flow. But he was only letting it flow one way. And by stopping the game repeatedly to give United free kicks, he completely interrupted our flow and it allowed them to bring the game down to their level. Now, the thing with United is their distances have never been great. But what they did very well today was they allowed Casemiro to sit in the middle. They didn't ask him to move very far, just in front of that back three, and he was allowed to ping balls all over the park. With Cunha or with Mbeumo out one side and Dorgu out the other, they had two targets that they had hit. Dorgu wants to go very wide and get the ball on his left, and Mbeumo wants to go wide and come inside and really drive towards goal. That was something that they did repeatedly, and they did it to reasonable success. But their whole game plan was make the pitch as big as possible, make the game disjointed, unsettle our distances, and make us move our players into areas that they don't want to be. And they did that very well today. But at times we dealt with it well, other times we didn't. One of those instances was when Cunha ran straight through the middle of the pitch. Zubimendi, Rice, and Gabriel all failed to deal with them. But on these instances, it just felt like we were a yard off. It didn't feel like it was a quality issue. It didn't feel like it was a tactical issue. It just felt like we were a yard off, because we know our players. We know how good they are. We know what their strengths are. But today, it just didn't quite feel like we were fully there. And that was disappointing. But on the whole, the key today was getting 3 points. It wasn't going to blow United away. How many times have we complained that we've gone away and we have done everything, but we failed to put the ball in the back of the net? We've been the team that have conceded a scrappy goal that ended up costing us a game. Well, today it was the other way around. Man United were the team that were probably the better side. They had a lot more shots than us. They had some decent efforts. Dorgu hitting the post very early in the first half. But we were the team that got the goal when it really mattered. Because in truth, aside from Reyes' big save from Mbeumo's header in the second half, there weren't many big saves that had to be made. There weren't many big moments in this game where you thought that should have been a goal. De Ligt had a big block on Saka's shot right at the end of the game when Odegaard scooped it into him. But beyond that, again, we didn't have a ton of chances. Gyökeres didn't register a shot. Havertz didn't do much in the final third when he came on. And ultimately, I felt whilst we were moving the ball forward quicker and we seemed more determined to get that ball into danger areas faster, we didn't do it effectively. And when we went forward, because we weren't doing it effectively, we were leaving ourselves open at the other end. And that's what I mean about us being half a yard out. It felt like the timing of our release wasn't good enough. The timing of just our running, everything just seemed a yard off. And when Arteta made the changes, it felt like the right time, because Calafiori had got booked right before halftime. And to be honest, given Arteta's history with Calafiori, I did expect him to hook him at halftime, because I go back to the Forest away game last year. He got booked in the first minute of the game for a shirt pull. The minute his man gets round him, Calafiori does lean for that shirt pull. And it is an issue, because referees have to give a yellow card for that unless you're wearing a Man United shirt. Today, he did the same thing, and it was an instance where he was having a very good game. But I think Mikel's had a word with him at halftime. He calmed him down. And in the second half, Riccardo Calafiori came out and gave 25 minutes of very assured football. Very good on the ball, very good in the air, very good at dealing with situations. And what I loved about the performance today was some of the things that I associate with Calafiori that I love, other people hate them. And that's the front-footed defending, diving into challenges. In the second half, I didn't see that. I saw a player that knew he was on a yellow card and used his brain. He was thinking, he was making sure he didn't put us down to 10 men. He knew that we needed to get the result today, regardless of how we played, because going down to 10 men would have put us in a block, and we were already struggling to keep United at bay. But on the ball, he has this ability that no one else on our team has. He can just get play up the pitch very, very quickly. On one instance, it was a very disappointing piece of refereeing, actually. Calafiori got in behind, and he is offside most likely, but the flag went up straight away. And I was surprised to see that, because Arsenal had two players running into goal. We had Gyökeres and we had Saka. Calafiori may have been onside. On the commentary, they said Luke Shaw was possibly playing him on. It was marginal. To me, it looked like he was offside. But why did that whistle go straight away? Why did the flag go up straight away? Why didn't they just continue to play on? But I look at instances like that and think, how often do we see our fullback in a really advanced position? How often do we see them pushing beyond the last line, getting in behind and really creating opportunities? And that's what he was doing today. And on the right, I didn't feel Ben White offered any threat, and I felt he was being run up and down far too easily. He didn't look assured in the challenges. He looked like he was pulling out of a few. By contrast, with Calafiori in both halves, he was someone that was so sharp in the challenges. There were a couple of instances when he was on the yellow card where he knew, if I don't win this ball, I'm off. And he went in razor sharp, pinpoint, very Italian, with his toe, and got that ball away. And again, I'm looking at these things and thinking, this guy is so, so good. We just have to keep him fit. Because if we don't keep him fit, we're going to have to rely on Miles Lewis-Skelly to play every game. But with Calafiori, we've got an agitator. Is he the right solution with Ben White also on the other side? I'm not so sure. But if you've got Timber, who's an unbelievable fullback and one of the best 1v1 defenders out there, and Calafiori allowed to roam on the other side, you've got real balance in your team. And we saw when Timber came on that he offered just a real grit. He's a total footballer. He could play in any position. For me, he always looks like a midfielder, that kind of typical six, the old school, scrappy, comes away with the ball, moves the ball up the park. When he passes it, he knows how to give it to a teammate. And Jurriën Timber doesn't look fit at the minute, but when he came on, he looked very, very solid today. Not quite at the races in terms of fitness, but in terms of quality, he's absolutely there. But Calafiori was the man that made the difference. And that's a big, big, bright spark to our season. It's another goal for him in Manchester. He absolutely loves playing in that city. But I do want to talk about the heat of the day. As the game went on, I was thinking Arsenal look really heavy-legged here. And then the ball went down to the other end. And I saw Man United turn and start going towards the ball. And they looked like the energy was really drained out of them. They were really having to go for it and dig deep to keep that ball going forward. They've got sprinters, they made changes, and they've got some very good creative players. But when you look at the energy in those legs, it seemed to be last ditch for a lot of them. De Ligt was a player that I was very impressed with. I thought he had a really good game, even though I don't rate him overly highly. But I thought this was the kind of game that suited him. Lenny Yoro is another player that I do rate very highly. I thought he had a really good game as well. But I didn't feel we were testing them enough. And this is why I really like Calafiori, because I do feel he's someone that gets into the box and gets around those areas and will really create things. But again, today, we weren't getting anything from the ref. And there were instances when we would win the ball back, and that front-footed play, the whistle was going straight back down the other end, and suddenly you're back defending in the heat, heavy legs, and you have to go again. You have to keep finding that energy. And when United went in, very hard on Gyökeres a lot of times, they were getting the free kick. And I think the tone was set right from the opening minute. Mbeumo smashes Zubimendi in the face. How the ref misses that, I have no idea. But it's a long arm. It goes out and he hits him kind of with his forearm. Whether there's malice in it or not, I don't care. It's a free kick. The malice comes down to whether it's a card or not. For me, I'm happy, free kick, but that allowed United to get straight forward and really put us under pressure. And it showed them that the ref's going to allow them to have a really physical game here. And that really plays into the home team's advantage. But ultimately for us, we came away with 3 points, and that's the big thing. I saw things from players that I haven't seen before. Calafiori was the one that I thought really, really disciplined, really switched on and moving that ball very nicely. And whenever he had to defend, he defended very well. Yes, he got beaten a couple of times, but if you're a fullback facing up to Bryan Mbeumo for 90 minutes or 70 minutes, and that switch is coming time and time again, and out to the other side as well, you are going to be beaten because these are good wingers. We forget that when fullbacks get beaten, that that's the job of the wingers. The fullback's job is to stop them. But over the course of 90 minutes, it is a combat. It is a 1v1 duel. And that's how you come out on top. You keep battling, you keep fighting. And for me, Calafiori today was one of the players that really, really stood out. And Mbeumo's best chances came from when he came central, as you would imagine. But ultimately, I just thought it was a really strong performance. And I was really surprised that Mikel kept him on the pitch 25 minutes later than probably I would have. But that shows a bravery with Mikel. At times last season, we were really critical of him because he didn't take chances. I felt today he took a lot of risks, and the big risk was keeping playing Calafiori whilst on that yellow card, starting with Gyökeres. But on the whole, it wasn't a good performance. Let's not gloss over it. There were players that were good. Martin Odegaard, brilliant game. We talk about leadership in a game, and ironically, the captaincy debate that has come up. If you look at Martin Odegaard from the first minute to the last today, he was leading the press. He was charging on. He was really leading his teammates. He was encouraging everyone. He was lifting everyone. He was leading by example. And then right at the end of the game, it was him that dinked that ball into Saka. And it took a great block from De Ligt for Saka not to make it 2-0 to Arsenal. And then right on the absolute death, we saw Saka. He didn't have a good game today. He didn't do a lot, but he gets away from two men, puts a beautiful ball into Madueke, and he should score. It should have been 2-0. But ultimately, I think even coming away with a 1-0 win in this game, we can be very happy. United will be very, very disappointed that they didn't win that or that they didn't get a point out of this. But for us, that's one major game out of the way. That's one ground that we don't like going to. That's ticked off with 3 points. We've got 37 more to go. And obviously, the task is to keep winning, keep going forward, and keep getting points. But there were performances out there that should give people real encouragement. And then there was others who we know how good they are. We saw all last season, all of the season before, and even during preseason, how good some of them were, and they didn't quite step up today. The fact that we came away with a 1-0 win and only 2 or 3 players really stood out with good performances shows how much growth there is for this team. I'm not worried about the performance at this stage. For me, the only thing that I cared about today was getting 3 points, and we got them. So onwards and upwards for Arsenal. We've got Leeds next week. We have to get the 3 points, and I will be back with more breakdown shows throughout the week. Thank you for watching. If you've enjoyed the show, please drop a like. Please drop a comment with your thoughts on the game, because this is one that I think will divide opinion. Ultimately, look, I'm absolutely buzzing we've got the 3 points. So have a chat with me in the comments. Tell me what you think. And if you've enjoyed this, please subscribe to the channel and please keep coming back for more. We will see you again very soon.